By the time we worked with Trucklite, they had sold to,
Penske?
well, Penske ultimately bought it, but they sold to a company that became located off of Elmwood Avenue in Faulkner. And Dick Coetzee was the general manager. And they were successful. And they built a plant down in Pennsylvania as well. But the story goes that Dick called me up one day, and he and I were friends, and we had done some projects with him, and said, I need you to come down and sit across the table from me because I'm going to tell you some bad news. I want to tell you face to face. So I drove down from Mayville, and my office was in Mayville at the time, and I sat across from Dick, and he says, unfortunately, we're going to have to close the Faulkner plant entirely. We'll try and sell it to somebody else, but Trucklite's relocating its entire facility into the Pennsylvania location. And I said, what's the reason? What's the trigger that made this happen? He said, we have to grow. We have to double or triple the size of this facility if we were to stay here, and we can't. We're in wetlands. Every spring and many times during the summer and the fall, the water comes right up to the walls of the back of the plant. Our parking lots gets flooded in front as well. People have to wear boots to get into here. We're just surrounded by wetlands. And we know we can't build in the wetlands, and so we're going to have to leave Faulkner. And I said to him, well, what if the wetlands went away? Would there be a different decision? He said, well, how the heck can the wetlands go away? I said, well, that's my problem. Mm-hmm. What I need from you is a callback to say you'd reconsider relocating out of Faulkner if you didn't have wetlands to deal with anymore. Because MRC, which was then MRC, has got the same issue. They can't grow because of the wetlands. So he calls me back in a week and he says, here are the conditions. The powers to be say, if we don't get wrapped up into a lawsuit, and you can get rid of the wetlands, and it's all on you, and you take 100% responsibility, and the wetlands go away, we'll build in Faulkner. I said, we're going to take the wetlands away. So I went up to Mayville, and I met with Jack Lenzer, who was county executive at the time. And I said to Jack, I said, here's what I need. I need $250,000, and I need you to have the backbone of steel, because we're going to go out and take away these wetlands. We're going to build a drainage system that is going to drain the entire area down into the Quaint Road in the town of Poland. And we're not going to do it with a permit, because if we go for a permit, we'll never get it. And if we go for a permit, Trucklite's gone. They're gone. And he says, one condition. When they call and they come, whoever they are, whether it's the state DEC or the federal EPA, you're going to be in the room. I said, I'll be in the room, Jack. So we hired Brown Engineering, Bob Brown. Bob designed the drainage system. We put storm drains on Elmwood Avenue. We put a 14-foot massive storm drainage area right along the railroad tracks behind Trucklite and MRC. And then we built chutes off into the land to drain all the land. And within a month, it was completely bone dry, never to be wet again. And Trucklite announced they were going to build this big new expansion in Faulkner, and which we helped them with, by the way. And then Jack did get the call from DEC, and Jack called up and he says, David, come to Mayville, because now my office is in Jamestown. David, DEC will be here in 2 hours. Come to Mayville. The net result was they said, never do this again. And you have to double the size of the wetland you destroyed. The county has to buy it and create, if we destroyed 50 acres, we have to create 100 acres of new wetland, which we did. But it was not in an area where a business could operate in.
Is that in Harmony someplace? the property? What do I think? There must have been another project where we had to do something.
But that was one example of, I thought it was farther out on the Quaint Road, but
Yeah.
but regardless, we got our wrists slapped and we got yelled at, but ultimately we get Trucklite.
And the same thing played out with SKF because their MRC, they had that same issue, right?
They had the same issue. The biggest project that we ever did with MRC is back when it was TRW. And TRW had pretty much decided that it could not operate in Jamestown and Chautauqua County because of labor management problems, which they described as labor management problems. And there was a change at the top of the union at MRC, or TRW at the time. I can't remember exactly what three-letter designation they were working on at the time. To Mike Piazza. Mike Piazza became the leader of the United Auto Workers, which is the union down at SKF now. And he was a much more progressive thinking, futuristic thinking guy. And I presented the powers to be at TRW with a proposal that we hire a labor management consultant out of the Wharton School who had knowledge here in Jamestown, and have him go in and work with the union, exclusively work with the union. The only role for the company was that the union would be on the payroll at the time that all this training was going on. And Mike was very interested, and people on this committee were very interested in what other unions were doing creatively to make sure that the economic unit that they were working in didn't get killed by historically doing stupid things between labor and management. And what other unions were making steps to say, where's the future and what do we need to do to make sure our economic unit survives? And he put together such a creative way for the union to work with management that they literally ended up negotiating a contract that was 50% fewer pages than the one going into the negotiations with. Yeah. So it's not that they walked away from the union, but they put in place at that time enough material where TRW decided not to leave Jamestown. TRW made a decision to stay here. Now again, it's the people who do the blocking and tackling inside the plant that get all the credit for that. And their location here in town, or location in Faulkner, and the new heat treat facility that they've built in Faulkner, has been an evolution of management and labor decisions over years. We were just a resource to get that done.